I get a lot of men telling me in private that I should take on some challenge other than those which combine to form the gender war, or as I prefer to call it, the war on men. They say I should stop attacking women, and that I should attack the system, or white supremacy. Well, in that case, they are giving me license to attack anyone I see fit, because the system includes as many women as men. The system is not an entity that lives in a room in 10 Downing Street, or in the White House. It is both men and women. Women are as much a part of the system as men. They say women don't wield any power in society, and I say they couldn't be more wrong. In a society where government is elected by the people, and where the majority of voters are women, women wield an enormous amount of power. On top of that, women control 60% of the wealth in Western countries and make 80% of purchasing decisions, which translates into what? Massive consumer power. Which means that almost every institution in society wants the attention of women, and none dare do anything that offends them, like treat men fairly, for example. The media, the business community, the political establishment, and even the religious establishment all have the singular aim to cater to women's needs, wants, and desires. Just switch on your television and look for content that addresses any male interest or need, other than sport. So it's a complete fallacy to claim that women are powerless. We are constantly told that society is male-dominated, since most positions of power are said to be occupied by men. This is another example of how female stupidity has corrupted common sense. Men occupy most positions of responsibility, and they use that responsibility the same way husbands use theirs, for the benefit of women. Human societies are much more like bee colonies or ant colonies than we might like to admit. There's the queen bee, who does nothing but breed, and then there's a hierarchy of males who service the queen bee's needs. There's not a single politician I can name who ever advocated on any issue pertaining specifically to male experience. However, all of them compete to demonstrate their chivalry when it comes to addressing issues of specific concern to women. Now, women have more than just superior voting power. They are not a passive body of voters who only participate in the political process once every 4 years at election time. They are active participants in the processes of government, including policy drafting and lawmaking. You'll find as many women as men at all levels in society's institutions, and they play a key role as experts, advisors, proposers, and authors of much of the anti-male legislation and policy that affects the lives of the ordinary man on the street. They say that black women should be spared the kind of criticism increasingly coming their way because they're not the ones who created the system. And I say maybe they didn't create it, but they are now wedded to it. They certainly seem to think they are well served by it because they are among the most vocal supporters of the system and its family-destroying policies. Who is it that brings the system into our communities, into our homes, and into our lives? Women. They're the ones who bring the child support system on us. They're the ones who use the system's abortion services to destroy our babies. If our children survive the abortion cut, then they raise them on the system's welfare and other dependency programs that paralyze real progress in our communities. Generation after generation of black children are born only to become fodder for the system's jails. On the rare occasion that the mainstream media pays lip service attention to the destruction that family breakdown causes, who gets blamed? They blame men. And who are the loudest accusers? Black women. Right here on YouTube they make videos telling people to get married, but not out of love, or even just to legitimize children, but because the marriage license is a piece of paper that locks you into the system, giving the state absolute control over your children, your earnings, your assets, and your life. Go check out my video, Why You Shouldn't Date or Marry Them, to hear the cold-eyed malice for yourself. So where are all these good black women standing by our side to fight against the dark forces that loom all around us? Show me one, and I'll remember to script her out of my diatribes. Furthermore, can anyone point me to a single black man anywhere, other than myself, who is not afraid to speak these truths, and who speaks them from an informed perspective, rather than an emotional one? Name one, because all I see are pussy beggars who are only concerned about who women choose, or relationship experts who think they can beat the system simply by being more selective about the woman they shack up with. I had one clan leave a comment saying he doesn't want to be part of a male whiners club. No, of course not. He'd rather be part of a man-hating club that whines morning, noon and night about men, men, men. These people want to be able to attack me, a black man, but I should hold still while they're doing it. I mustn't scream out in pain or fight back in self-defense. I should simply stop whining and accept that it's all my fault, because I didn't keep it in my pants, or because I made bad choices. They don't want me to talk about any of the things that work against me in the society, especially if those things work in their favor. That's why none of these women ever mentions all the ways the system works on their behalf. They never mention abortion, child support, spousal support, safe haven, welfare, divorce, and the immunity from criticism they once, but no longer, enjoy. You see, all these are non-negotiable women's rights. They are off limits, especially where those rights give women the upper hand over men. Their best advice to men is to make better choices, but for themselves, they want solid legal protections. They want the system to safeguard their rights and provide them every possible safety net against harm, suffering and consequence. But you must man up and take responsibility, not only for your own wrongdoing, but everyone else's. Well, truth be told, I could just about live with that, if it could be shown that they were raising healthy, well-adjusted, competent children who grew up to be an asset to our communities. However, the only thing they raise our children to be are the next generation of baby mothers, prison meat and cannon fodder, both home and abroad. And then they blame us and bill us for the destruction of our own children. You must be out of your fucking mind if you think I'm going to stay silent about black women's catastrophic failure to handle the most important task we could honour them with a responsibility to perform. They don't even see it as an honour to raise our children. The way they tell the story, it's merely something they're forced to do because black men are too irresponsible to be relied on. The truth is, for far too many of them, children are simply a necessary inconvenience to be suffered in order to obtain the meal ticket that entitles them to freeload of society and their children's fathers. None of the clowns who chastise me for criticising black women ever tells that side of the story. They won't do that due to an archaic sense of chivalry. They can't or won't acknowledge the connection between women's abandonment of the family and the chaos in our communities. They would rather spread the lies they're told by women who they've witnessed with their own eyes destroying the lives of the children they're supposed to be responsible for. This is the wall that a black man runs into when trying to address any problem in our community that involves women and children, which is why I had to take a break from making videos and just watch and see if anyone emerged who would fill the gap in the crowd where a black man should be standing waving the banner of men's rights. Needless to say, I was disappointed. There are a host of issues in which we should be fielding an array of smart, highly capable black spokesmen. Instead, we have a bunch of emotional drag queens whose leading preoccupation is begging women to choose them and then let them lead. The antithesis of everything manhood is about. What kind of leader begs someone to let them lead? Where do these simpletons get their ideas from? I'll tell you where. From their mothers or from some holy book. I can guarantee you it's not from any academic text or from watching the example of men who actually know how to solve a problem. Their one ambition in life is to lead a woman. Meanwhile, women themselves are determined not to be led by any man. On the contrary, women's primary concern is to check male power and mould us into something weak enough to control. In the black community, they've achieved this goal so thoroughly that we fight each other over who gets picked to be castrated first. That's why we can't find any truly good black men. Just a bunch of neutered Uncle Toms who spend all their time trying to convince women that they're better for women than the guy on the next block, or fighting with lunatic women over who has more interracial dating options, or arguing over skin tone or some other gay shit. They think a system maintained and supported by people who have no love for black men, whether domestic or foreign, will suddenly become enlightened and start treating them fairly, with no effort or sacrifice on their own part to force that change. They think they can hide their cowardice and inability to think for themselves behind the passages in a holy book. They think calling themselves good black men will somehow compensate for all the manhood they lack. They refuse to understand what every other race of man understands, that freedom ain't free. It comes at a cost, and that cost must be paid every day, forever. And this is the kind of fool who sneaks up behind me, on his knees, menstruating harder than a teenage virgin, to advise me about who I should fight. Well, I am going to whine, shout, scream the truth as I see it to the whole world, just like everyone else. I'm going to make so much noise that even the thickest walls in Fort Knox won't be able to keep out the sound of my roaring voice. I'm going to expose the hypocrite, the coward, the fool, the corrupt, the inept, the incompetent, the arrogant, and the treacherous, whoever they are, whether they be black or non-black, male, and especially female. Now what? You ain't got half of what it takes to stop this nigger. Later.